unnecessary offense. Presented at a clear, easy to digest level. So, hey guys, this is PM Mathis, your global indie author distributor. Okay, so I have been on YouTube probably way too much. And I've noticed that people having conversations and being willing to listen without creating a preconceived narrative is not really happening these days. And I don't know, as an author and a speaker, it's very unnerving to me that it is so extremely easy for people to be dishonest in their conversation, to guide and direct people's hearing and their ability to comprehend a thing going in one direction. So as an older woman of wisdom, and one who has raised a daughter to have her own voice and to be out here, saying online and showing up on social media as a person that wants you to understand how important your voice is, and not to we can't just leave things to chance anymore. We just can't sit back and say nothing. And so I hope that me having this conversation, carrying this conversation with you in a creative way, that I can kind of put out here, not necessarily debating with people, but still trying to have conversations in the easiest and the politest way that you can, that does not create people to be defensive or offended by just the mere thought that you don't have the same thought process that they have. And so we know the saying, you teach one to reach one. So I am definitely focused on this being a for the generations, because we teach one to reach one. So I'm concerned about definitely the generation that's right behind me, which is the millennials. Now my daughter is more on the back end of the millennials because she's on the younger side of it. And then I expect for that generation to teach the next generation, which I believe is Gen Z coming up, behind them. Because it's very important that maybe you can hear things closer to somebody that's of the same age that you are. And I know sometimes our young people think that people with gray hair are, just old fuddy duddies, and we don't have anything to, offer, or what we are presenting in the world is so outdated that it can't be used. But please understand, experience, wisdom, you can't beat it. Life experiences that we've had and things that we've had to come up in, and no, we hadn't always made the right decisions. Like, I'm seeing a lot of, decisions that are being made that are not right by this generation that's following in behind me. So it's causing me to want to use my voice to help. Now, I am an empty nester. Like I told you, my baby, she'll be 30, her birthday. So she's on the younger end of this thing, but I want to make sure as much as I can that I leave some wisdom and some knowledge. And like I said, you can Google me and follow me, or chat GPT me, however you need to do it. But I am trying to use my voice in a positive way. So I have three, points that I'm going to make about carrying a conversation creatively. Okay. And so the first one would be, because like I said, we live in a time now where people are so sensitive. Point number one would be to frame it as exploring and not attacking. Okay. So people literally get defensive and offended when they're feeling like you're trying to prove them wrong. The goal is to make the conversation feel like a shared project and not a fight. Now, see, that's important because you know that some people claim victory as violence. And we, as much as we can, now I'm not saying be a doormat and let people walk all over you. And I'm not even saying that you can't stand up for what you believe in, because that's absolutely what we're called to do in this time. But how you present sometimes is very important. And so rather than being defensive and being offensive, let's try to ask how instead of what. Okay? Instead of making a direct statement like your opinion is wrong, start with genuine curiosity. Help me understand how you came to that idea. This positions you as a learner, which automatically lowers the person's guard. And use the I am curious shield. Open your point by saying, I'm curious about the topic behind that. Or my experience led me to a different idea. Can we explore why? This keeps the focus on the process of thinking rather than the person's identity or final answer, because you know people don't like to be personally attacked. And also too, we don't know somebody's life experience when we start having a conversation with them. You could just kind of see somebody out in, you're shopping or something like that, and somebody strikes up a conversation with you. And you may be inspired to have a conversation that goes beyond the simple, well, hey, how you doing? Or yes, the line is too long. Those conversations that you have with people. And it might get into something that, is a little tricky to talk about because we live in such a time right now. So it's always good to have some tips and tricks in your back pocket. So in case conversations do jump off, you can kind of go back to what you've heard Pam say, right? Okay. So point number 2, talk about an example, not the person. When a topic is sensitive, let's just say like politics or personal choices, talking about it directly can feel like a personal attack. To make it safe for a creative discussion, introduce ideas using an analog or a neutral story. Okay? So let's just use the case study method. Discuss the problem as if it was happening to a business. A historical figure or a fictional character asks, if we were the advisors to a company facing the exact issue, what would be the most creative, no fear solution? So rather than making it about you and the person that's standing before you, you could say, okay, we standing here at Walmart. How could we get this line moving, a lot quicker? Let's just say we at the checkout line. Well, that might be simply so all of the checkout lanes are not open. Let's get those open. Let's figure out why they're down, and let's definitely at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, why are these are not all in operation? Because then the flow of traffic will be a lot better. See, that's how you make it not about you and the person, but you make it about, um, a figure that's not going to be divisive. Okay, or use an analog to simplify. Compare the complex issue to something simple and common. For example, compare a tricky group discussion to planning a pizza order. This helps the brain analyze the problem's structure without the immediate pressure of real world emotions. Okay, so simply, let's just say if you've ever worked for a company and the company was going to provide, pizza, and they say to you, so hey, what does everybody want? Now, I might just say it just depends on the day because I'm usually a very decisive person. I might just say, I don't really care, if y'all need to just get, and definitely I'm thinking about, well, maybe, as a cost cutting kind of thing or to make me look like a good employee. So just get the Supreme if that's what we need to do, and Pam can just pick things off. Now, on the other hand of that, if I'm feeling like, nope, I just want meat, because generally I'm just a meat person. So I might just say, well, nope, I want a meat pizza. Well, everybody else, we can't make a decision. So somebody has to jump in there and be decisive. That's what that means by using an analog or to simplify an idea. This is how you give somebody an example. This using, because we all can relate to we trying to order pizza, and so hey, what does everybody want? And everybody don't want the same thing. Okay. Okay. And so finally, to wrap this up, point number 3: set a safe zone rule. Before even started talking about the tricky subject, set simple, clear agreement on how you'll talk, right? That this is extremely important, because what we'll say is we're not going to be attacking somebody's personality or how they may feel about a thing, because just because you don't feel that way about something, that don't mean it's okay to attack somebody because they do. We have to be mindful that having a conversation is not about attacking somebody or what they believe in or how they feel about a thing. It is actually to have a conversation, to get an understanding, because sometimes you're going to literally have to agree to disagree. But what we don't want to do is not have conversations. Because if we get to the place that we can no longer have conversations, we're going to lose our young people. Because what then happens is everybody goes to their selective corners. We're all just sitting around here mad and sulking, and can't understand why things are unraveling like they are. Why have I not talked to my sweet mama in years on top of years? Because I refuse to be the adult in the room. And sometimes, as the adult in the room, the older adult with the more wisdom, remember, we're talking to generations, you are going to have to sometimes, um, I don't want to say be the bigger person in the room, but sometimes you're going to have to drop your guard. Sometimes you will have to apologize. Sometimes you've got to not just see it the way you see it, but realize that there is somebody else that you're trying to get a point across to. And all the time, it's not beating them over the head with it, it's not demanding your way. You've got to be able to step back and say, well, if you know what, if I was in that person's shoes, how would I feel about the way that I was talked down to or how you came at me? So we always got to have the ability to have this safe zone rule, so everybody knows the rules of engagement. And attacking people is not the way to get them to listen. Okay? The listening promise. Gently suggest, I have a challenging idea I want to discuss. Can we agree that for the next 5 minutes, our only job is to listen without interrupting? And we can pause and reset if things get tense. Okay? Because that's important. Got to set the rules of engagement. Use soft language. Model using tentative, non bossy words. Try saying, my initial thought is, or I could be wrong, but I see it as this. This invites the other person to respond with their own tentative ideas, making the conversation collaborative and less about being absolutely right. Because you know what? People stop hearing you if your only objective is to be right and to prove them wrong. And we cannot, our young people need us to be better than that. They need us to have that our experiences does simply make us wiser, gives us the ability to say, okay, it's getting a little tense in here. Let's kind of redirect this, but not again in a bossy way. And I'm talking to you like I'm talking to myself, because I know I can be a straight boss. I am very direct in what I say, and I don't sometimes waver. But what I'm seeing out here as I'm watching the news, as I'm watching culture, as I'm on YouTube a lot, I see that there's this fight that is not about us just necessarily winning, but we all need to win because we all need to stay in a position of humility and having the ability to bring things way down, not to escalate situations, but to be able to level things out where everybody's on the same playing field. Now, I know that when I say that, we're not all educated the same. We don't all come from the same background. But kindness and grace and mercy all looks the same. So, hey guys, this is PM Mathis, your global indie author distributor. And if this has been beneficial for you, subscribe, like, and share. And also look inside the description because your girl, is creating a digital imprint where I can, where when you're not seeing me or hearing me, you have some tools of the tricks and tools of the trade to help yourself advance and to keep your mind and your mindset stayed and focused on those things that are positive and those things that will take you to the next levels that you want to get to. Okay, guys, I'll talk to you later. Bye.